On live TV, she said, "Here's the man who truly completes me." And then she brought him on stage. That was the exact second my heart stopped beating the way it always had. Not because I was surprised, if I'm honest with you. Deep down I had suspected something for months, but because she chose that moment, that stage, that spotlight, to make her betrayal a spectacle, to drag me into the fire without even looking back to see if I was burning. We were sitting side by side in the studio audience, smiling for the cameras, holding hands like the perfect couple we'd pretended to be. She'd been invited to appear on a talk show, a local morning program that loved highlighting inspiring couples. They'd reached out after seeing clips of us at charity events. Photos of our wedding splashed across social media. To the world, we were the image of love. She loved that attention. She lived for it. And I, like a fool, went along. The producers had prepped us in the green room. Questions about how we met, what kept our relationship strong, what advice we'd give other couples. I remember glancing at her as she applied her lipstick, laughing with the makeup artist. Glowing under the lights, she looked like everything I thought I'd ever wanted. Confident, beautiful, magnetic. I had no idea that beneath that glow, she was rehearsing lines that would humiliate me in front of everyone. The interview started normally. We talked about our story, how we'd met at a bookstore, how she'd spilled coffee on my shirt, and joked it was her way of making me remember her. The audience chuckled. The host leaned in, asking about our future plans. She squeezed my hand on cue, flashing the same dazzling smile she always wore when people were watching. But then the host asked a question that changed everything. "So tell us, what makes your relationship work? What's the secret ingredient?" She leaned back, her smile softening into something I didn't recognize. And with the cameras rolling, with the audience watching, she said, "Honestly, it's about being with the person who truly completes you. And I have to admit, that person isn't the one sitting next to me." Gasps filled the studio. My throat went dry. The host blinked, confused, glancing at me, then back at her, and before I could even process the words, she gestured toward the wings of the stage and said, "Here's the man who truly completes me." And he walked out, tall, confident, his posture relaxed, like he belonged there. He wasn't a stranger. He was the same man I'd seen in whispers, in text notifications she'd brushed off as work, in excuses about late nights and girls' dinners. He was the shadow I'd been trying not to acknowledge, and now, here he was, flesh and blood, stepping into the light, as if the show had been written for him. The audience erupted, gasps, whispers, some clapping nervously, not knowing if this was real or staged drama for ratings. The host stammered, trying to regain control, but my wife was already standing, already reaching for his hand, already smiling brighter than she ever smiled at me. I sat frozen. My hands clenched in my lap. My chest felt hollow, as if every piece of me had been scooped out and left backstage. The cameras zoomed in on her, on him, on their fingers laced together. While I sat there in the frame, the man out of place, the husband reduced to a prop. Do you know what it feels like, to be erased in real time? To watch your identity as husband dissolve under the studio lights, while strangers across the country sip their coffee and watch you unravel. It's not fire, it's ice. It's cold, paralyzing, numbing. The host, bless her, tried to salvage it. So what exactly is happening here?" she stammered. My wife laughed lightly, that tinkling laugh that once made me weak, but now made me sick. I just couldn't keep pretending. "This," she said, lifting their joined hands, "this is real. This is the man who truly makes me whole." The audience didn't know whether to clap or boo. Some people actually cheered, thinking it was some kind of romantic twist. Others looked horrified, and me. I sat there, staring at her, my mind replaying every vow, every whispered promise, every "I love you," that now sounded like a rehearsed line in a bad play. The producer gestured for a commercial break. The cameras cut. The host leaned in, whispering frantically, trying to understand, but my wife just smiled, basking in the attention, as if my humiliation was her triumph. I didn't storm off. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and walked quietly off stage. Behind me, I could still hear her laugh, still see the way she turned toward him, as if I had never existed at all. In the car ride home, I sat in silence. My phone buzzed with messages, Friends, family, co-workers, some asking if it was real, some offering sympathy, others too shocked to know what to say. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, but my mind was already shifting. Because here's the thing, she thought she had won. She thought she had written me out of the story, replaced me in front of the cameras, left me broken in the audience. But what she didn't understand was this: betrayal doesn't destroy everyone the same way. For some it shatters them, for others it forges them. And in that moment, as the city lights blurred past my windshield, I realized something chilling. She had given me a gift. By trying to humiliate me on the grandest stage she could find, she had actually given me the perfect stage for revenge. Because if she wanted her betrayal to be public, then so would the truth. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, combing through everything I had ignored for too long. Her messages, her emails, her photos, and the more I found, the colder I became. Hotel receipts, flight booking, love notes disguised as work memos. She hadn't just cheated, she had built an entire life with him while standing beside me, and she thought the world would cheer for her when she revealed it. But the world doesn't cheer forever. The world loves drama, but it also loves a downfall, and I knew exactly how to give them one. When the cameras cut to commercial and I walked off that stage, most people thought that was the end of the story. The humiliated husband, who slipped quietly into the shadows while his wife and her lover basked under the lights. And maybe that's how it would have played out if I were the man she believed me to be. Passive, blind, too stunned to react. But humiliation doesn't always crush a man. Sometimes it transforms him. That night, as I sat in my car with the studio lights fading in the rearview mirror, I decided I wasn't going to be her casualty. I was going to be her reckoning. She gave me the perfect blueprint by doing it publicly. Betrayal is one thing in private. There it's messy, emotional, maybe even forgivable. But when you put it on stage, when you try to turn it into a performance, you create an audience. And an audience doesn't forget. She thought she controlled the script. She thought she was the star. What she didn't realize was that I had more evidence, more receipts, more truth than she could ever handle. And I wasn't going to whisper it in dark rooms or scream it in empty houses. I was going to do exactly what she did, broadcast it. The next morning, the fallout started trickling in. My phone was flooded with calls and texts. My mother horrified. My friends angry on my behalf. My co-workers whispering in the office hallways. Clips of her big reveal were already circulating online. People debated whether it was staged or real, whether she was brave for following her heart, or cruel for humiliating me. For a while I just let it simmer, let them talk, because while the world speculated, I was preparing. I spent days combing through everything I had ignored for too long. Old emails, hidden folders on her laptop, hotel receipts buried in spam, messages under fake names. The pattern was clear as day once I stopped pretending not to see it. While I had been planning anniversaries, she had been planning escapes. While I saved for vacations, she spent on him. While I stood beside her smiling for photos, she stood beside him smiling in hotel lobbies, halfway across the country. One discovery in particular sealed my plan. An email chain between her and him, laughing about how naive I was, how easy it would be to string me along until she figured out a way to separate her finances from mine. In one message, she even wrote, "The TV reveal will be perfect. He won't know what hit him." That line was the spark. She thought she had scripted the perfect act, but scripts can be rewritten, and I decided to write the ending. Her parents had planned a celebration dinner the following weekend to formally acknowledge her new relationship. Can you imagine? Less than a week after publicly humiliating me, they wanted to throw a party to toast the real love of her life. They invited family, friends, co-workers, everyone who mattered. I wasn't supposed to attend, of course. I wasn't supposed to be part of the story anymore, but I made sure I was. The night of the dinner, the restaurant's private hall was buzzing. Guests sipped champagne, laughter rang out, her parents beamed with pride. She arrived in a glittering dress, his hand wrapped possessively around her waist, her smile brighter than I'd ever seen it. Cameras flashed as people clapped, celebrating them as if they'd won something noble. I stood in the back, unnoticed at first, a ghost among the crowd, until I stepped forward. The room went still when they saw me, whispers spread like wildfire. Her smile faltered for the first time. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice low, tight, not wanting to break the illusion in front of her guests. I smiled coldly. Just here to celebrate. You wanted everything public, right? Before she could stop me, I pulled the folder from my jacket and set it on the table in front of her. The sound echoed through the room. Conversations died instantly. All eyes turned to us. What is this? She demanded, her voice trembling now. Truth, I said simply. The part you didn't broadcast. I opened the folder and began laying out the pages one by one. Screenshots of her emails, text threads with him mocking me. Receipts from hotel stays, dinners, gifts she'd bought him with money from our joint account. Photos she thought she'd hidden her in his arms. Her wearing jewelry I never gave her. Gasps rippled across the room with each page. Her parents' faces went pale. His smirk cracked. This is the woman you're celebrating, I said, my voice loud, clear. This is the woman who stood on live TV and declared her love while mocking the man she vowed to honor. She didn't just betray me, she lied to all of you. Every smile, every story, every toast built on deception. She tried to grab the papers, but I pulled them back. No, I said sharply. You wanted an audience. Let them see. The silence was deafening. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. Others whispered angrily. Her father buried his face in his hands. Her mother shook her head, tears welling, and him. He sat frozen, his confidence crumbling as his wife's voice rang out from behind. Yes, his wife. Because she had come too, and now she stood in the doorway, holding her own folder, her eyes burning with fury. You think you can play happy family with her? She spat, her voice shaking the room. Not after this. She dumped photos onto the table. His messages, his lies, his betrayals. The two of them sat there exposed, stripped bare, their fantasy collapsing under the weight of the truth. The room, erupt. Guests murmured. Some left in disgust. Others stayed to watch the spectacle. She broke down, sobbing, begging, her makeup streaking. He tried to defend himself, but every word fell flat against the mountain of evidence. I stood there calm, steady, watching their empire of lies burn in real time. When the noise reached its peak, I raised my voice one last time. You thought live TV was the perfect place to humiliate me. You thought you'd written the ending to our story. But the truth is, you didn't just humiliate me. You freed me. And tonight, I return the favor. Enjoy your audience, because they'll never look at you the same way again. I gathered my folder, turned, and walked out. The fallout was nuclear. Clips of the confrontation leaked online, just like her original reveal. Only this time, the narrative wasn't romantic. It wasn't brave. It was scandal. Headlines branded her a liar, a manipulator. His career took a hit. Her family distanced themselves in shame. Friends stopped answering her calls. The glow she'd craved turned into a spotlight of judgment she couldn't escape. And me, I rebuilt. Slowly, quietly, honestly. The silence of my new life was heavy at first, but it was clean. No cameras, no lies, no masks. Just me, and the truth. Sometimes I still see it in my mind. The moment she smiled for the cameras and said, "Here's the man who truly completes me." And then I remember the moment weeks later, when the spotlight turned, when the applause died, when the truth gutted her in front of the same audience she thought she'd captivated. She thought she'd written the perfect story. But in the end, the only thing she completed was her own downfall.